I watched 28 Days Later featuring fast zombies, shopping trolleys, and a whiskey with a nice peaty aftertaste. Zombie flicks have been a solid part of the cinematic landscape since George A. Romero's 1968 classic, Night of the Living Dead.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
They're often a favourite among low-budget film producers and independent filmmakers due to the relatively low budgets required. Some zombie flicks are lazy continuations of the usual tropes, but some make the most of the medium of zombie and break the boundaries of fiscal limitations through the use of creative filmmaking. And Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later is certainly a great example of incredible filmmaking. Boyle's film opens in an almost formulaic way. After an intro showing how the rage virus is a product of our own tinkering with science, a patient wakes up in hospital, like in Day of the Triffids, which writer Alex Garland said was an inspiration for the film, and we'll see a similar opening a year later in the Walking Dead graphic novels, and again in the TV series. But Boyle doesn't lazily follow established tropes. This isn't a backwater hospital in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of one of the busiest and most recognisable cities in the world. A lot has been written and said about the fact that Danny Boyle maximised a small window of pre-dawn London to film when the city was quiet and close off small sections of street, politely asking people not to walk through the shot. Now it would be green screens and CGI, but this simple solution works, and it works brilliantly. The small amount of footage captured gives that eerie liminal space vibe. It's visually striking to see such a familiar sight in such an empty way. It feels ominous, unsettling.
Hello!
Danny Boyle's techniques and approach were discussed as much as the narrative content of the film at the time. It was famously filmed on a digital camera, the Canon XL1, instead of film. This meant that comparatively small cameras could be used rather than huge 35mm film cameras. This enabled quick deployment of the production team, so they could get in and out like filmmaking commandos. It also made it easier to film in smaller spaces, which is really useful when filming on location. Plus, you can have more movement, as although the XL1 is hardly light, it's way more portable than the alternative. Plus, it's a lot cheaper, requiring less staff and none of that expensive film. The result is an image quality which is quite unique. The maximum resolution of the XL1 is 720 by 576, which is standard definition for PAL regions like the UK. For comparison, Full HD or 1080p is 5 times that resolution, and UHD or 4K is 20 times that resolution. I've seen a lot of comments over the years from people asking why 28 Days Later looks so shit, with people criticising shooting in digital using a 1990s digital camera because the low-res picture is now locked in at that resolution. But those people are missing the point. Danny Boyle didn't choose this camera just because it was nimble and cheaper, and as a result sacrificed video quality. The video quality was part of that decision. Resolution isn't the only visual issue here. There are blown highlights. There are so many crushed blacks. The dynamic range of the camera is incredibly limited compared to modern sensors. But use of the XL1 was a creative choice rather than purely a logistical or budget-based one. The overexposed whites at times, the dark shadows, the choppy action and the low resolution giving a less refined visual image are a key part of the film's aesthetic. It looks grungy, candid, dirty, of the moment rather than of its time. It gives an urgency to the film and an almost documentary look, which heightens tension and makes it feel more real. I say that some of the highlights are blown, but Danny Boyle isn't an amateur. The image is perfectly exposed for the subject. He just doesn't care about the blown highlights. Either that or he likes the look. And so do I. It has an energy about it. It feels like guerrilla filmmaking. Not guerrilla filmmaking, that's an entirely different thing. 28 Days Later is a character-driven film. We care about the main protagonists. We urge them on. And the baddies, well, it's not the zombies. The single most terrifying line in the film doesn't even reference the rage virus-infected zombies. The ugliest aspect of the film is revealed with the line, "I promised them women."
I promised them women.
Like a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction, the true horror isn't aliens or robots or zombies. It's the behaviour of a bunch of humans fighting for diminished resources and trying to establish new power plays, often with terrifying agendas. When this was filmed, the UK had had half a decade of lad culture, undoing a lot of social progression, and like many, I'd grown bored of the groin-grabbing, "Wahey, tits," tabloid misogyny.
But there's a magazine out called Loaded, which is kind of like, it's great to go out, call women birds again, drink lots of beer, get drunk and behave very insensitive in.
It's an unpleasantness Boyle uses well with the young male soldiers. And you find yourself rooting for the zombies at one point. And yes, the zombies of this film are scary. The swift, indiscriminate nature of the rage virus, and the name of the virus itself is gloriously violent,
infected with what?
Rage.
is truly horrifying. Watching humans contort their bodies and aggressively chase down those unafflicted is unflinchingly horrific and completely different to the slow-paced zombies we typically see. The stylistic decisions around shooting the film, showing actual London rather than replicating it, the gritty visual and the solid acting performances ground 28 days later in reality, which means there's always a sense of peril. The stakes start high and they ramp up from there. Cillian Murphy was relatively unknown at the time and is sublime as Jim. The role was initially designed for Ewan McGregor, but due to personal differences between him and Boyle at the time, it never happened.
I don't like you. Well, I don't like you.
Ryan Gosling at the time was a TV actor and was also considered.
Hello.
But Murphy is fantastic as Jim.
Nailed it.
Naomie Harris is a strong female lead, not a typical damsel in distress character. She's got bigger balls than Jim to start with, and you don't feel that she's there to simply fulfill a romance. I mean, she does in the end, but it's all part of her character's arc, rather than a sloppy copy and paste job.
Do you want us to find a cure and save the world, or just fall in love and fuck?
She represents an abrasive, fatalistic survival is all we have attitude,
Staying alive's as good as it gets.
which then evolves into something more optimistic when she experiences something other than just the ugly side of humanity, and her cynicism starts to dissolve.
I was wrong when I said that staying alive is as good as it gets.
Brendan Gleeson was probably the most famous actor in the film at the time, well, him and Christopher Eccleston.
Have a good life.
Gleeson's Frank brings optimism, humour and warmth to the film.
This is great. It's just great. Can't just take any crap. Now, single malt, 16-year-old, dark, full flavour. Peachy aftertaste.
The stakes are perhaps higher for him than any other character, as he's a dad, trying to look after his daughter in a world that's gone to shit.
This is my daughter, Hannah. Come on, sweetheart, say hello.
His actions are driven by paternal love. The stronger together mentality is proven correct, and this eclectic bunch of personalities makes for an interesting tale of survival. I said earlier that this film has an authenticity to it. Maybe it's because I'm a Brit and this is a British film, but I clicked with this film in a way I rarely do with horror titles. Although a lot of it has to do with the pseudo-verity style and the familiar surroundings, I think it mostly has to do with the believable characters. Testament to the film's ability to engage an audience, I watched this film recently on the big screen at a local film club, and spoiler alert, in fact, skip the next 25 seconds if you don't want any major spoilers, when Frank looks up and a drop of blood lands in his eye infecting him, there was a loud collective gasp in the theatre. And I'm pretty sure everyone there had seen the film before. My wife finds the scene where Jim finds his dead parents and the letter to him really upsetting. But for me, the most upsetting moment is watching Frank push his daughter away.
Hannah, I love you very much.
What?
Keep away from me.
A frenzied goodbye as he realises he's infected and can no longer protect her.
Keep away from me!
Dad?
Keep away from me! Keep away from me! Keep away! Keep away! Keep away!
Quite the opposite. He's the threat now. As a parent, I find it heartbreaking. It's a really powerful moment made all the more powerful by the futility of his death, highlighting that anyone at any time could end up infected. It's not always an action-filled moment of daring escape. Sometimes it's a pointless, unremarkable nanosecond. Interweaving the film is the score. A good score can lift a film. Jaws, Star Wars, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, all great, but they wouldn't be quite as great if it weren't for such a fantastic soundtrack. The musical choices and John Murphy's incredible score manipulate the viewer so that the tension is extra tense. Murphy's work in this film can be found in many films since, but it's here that it's the most effective. I actually think that this is one of the most impactful soundtracks in modern film. Does the film have issues? Maybe, but to be honest, I think it's brilliantly crafted. The main issue people seem to have is the overall look, but I love the look of this film. The product placement is perhaps a bit heavy. It received National Lottery funding, and the brand is pretty dominant, but not in a detracting way, and the National Lottery is pretty dominant in shops anyway, so it would be more weird for it not to feature. There seems to be pretty obvious Pepsi product placement too. Having said that though, later on there's a reference to Tango and Lilt.
Pepsi or Lilt?
Do you have any Tango?
Actually, I did have a can of Tango somewhere.
I actually love that scene. It's one of my favourite in the entire film. It's a snippet of boring, normal conversation, which is humorous because of the end of the world setting. 28 Days Later was massive when it came out, but due to stupid ownership and distribution rights issues, it's been difficult to get hold of. For several years, the only legitimate way to watch it was from old DVDs, which ceased production after about 3 years. As I record this in June 2025, it's only just returned to streaming services, no doubt because of a new sequel 28 years later, coming out later this month. Interestingly, to me anyway, there is a 4K edition being released later this year. I'm nervous about that. Some 4K restorations are famously shit, with some directors signing off on really strange colour grading choices. Given 28 Days Later has a unique original look, due to and embracing technical limitations of digital at the time, I'm worried it could be vulnerable to some generative AI resolution slop, which will compromise the look. I just hope that Danny Boyle has the final say and that he sticks to his original creative vision and doesn't pretend that some hyper-smoothed and upscaled version was what he always intended for, because that's bullshit and we'll all know it. Cinema needs custodians. In Boyle, we trust. Anyway, 28 Days Later, I love it. It cost around 5 million quid and made back about 60 million pounds at the box office, and spurned sequels which may end up being its own cinematic universe. Its fast zombies oddly seemed quite controversial at the time. The infected are scary, scarier than most zombies, definitely more dangerous. You can't outwalk a 28 Days Later zombie. It's going to launch itself at you in a crazed sprint. But at least they're sort of mindless, unlike some factions of humanity who see this as an opportunity to abuse their power. There's a lot said online about how this film was released in the shadow of the American September the 11th attacks, but here in the UK, the echoes of mad cow disease were still bouncing off news stories.
The government is investigating a possible loophole in the BSE controls that could allow some suspect beef into the food chain. Environmental health officers are worried about the practice of letting farmers keep carcasses for their own consumption.
As a kid, I'd seen lots of footage of cows stumbling with BSE, and the threat of CJD, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, felt tangible, a brain-altering condition for which there was no cure, and you might already have it.
The Committee of Scientific Experts set up to advise the government on BSE and its human equivalent CJD to recommend that all blood supplies should be treated to prevent any possibility of infection.
Thankfully, CJD wasn't a pandemic, but watching 28 Days Later in a post-9/11, post-COVID world, its imagery of empty streets and photos on walls seem close to home, and the film maybe even works better now than it did in 2002. This is a very British film with British visual assets, and I think that British charm helped to make this stand out both here and in America. It has that keep calm and carry on attitude, and as many spatterings of humour as it does blood. Instead of wide roads, guns and gung-ho, we get narrow city streets, black cabs and shopping trolleys. Excuse the pun, but 28 Days Later breathed new life into zombie movies. It's not just a great addition to the genre, it influenced and shaped it. If the video quality doesn't look as good as you expect, then at least the final sequence was shot on 35mm film, so that bit should look awesome in 4K. Hopefully though, the 4K version won't bastardize the rest of the film. I get that a lot of people don't like the look of the film, but please, stop being fixated on the video quality and embrace it. If 28 Days Later looks shit, then it looks gloriously shit, and I love it. Goodbye.